let's go on a trip to the edge of the roof of the world. India, the world's largest democracy, 1 billion strong, a place of poverty, of commerce, of youthful promise, pungent smells and vibrant colors. And as we head north to the edge of the Himalaya, we reach an interesting place, Dharamsala, home to the Tibetan government in exile, a place of mystery, a place of religion, home to 4,000 Buddhist monks in exile, representatives of 20,000 Buddhist monks all over India. And in this place, the monks are serious about their studies. They study theology, they study their religious traditions, long and complex, spanning 5,000 years of history. And they're extremely serious when engaged in science and discovery in the classroom, as I learned, when encountering gravity for the first time. And in a program I've been lucky to teach in for the last 5 years, going every year to northern India or southern India, in an interesting transition that takes about 3 weeks, a senior monk here, perhaps a geshe, steeped in the traditions of Buddhism, in a period of 3 weeks becomes a master of time and space. It made me reorganize my thinking about my subject, essentially throwing out all the lecture notes and ideas I'd accumulated for 20 years. What better reason to go back to scratch than to be encountering a new culture, a new religion at the roof of the world? We talked about space, of course, and we talked about space in terms of simple models. There's no high technology there. There was no internet. The cell phones didn't work. There wasn't hot water. It was fairly simple, a monastic life, suitably for me as well as the monks. We used grains of sand, not just as physical models, but as metaphors. We made scale models, and we learned how to deal with numbers, estimating the number of sand grains in a mandala, an activity the monks carried out. The answer is about 100 million. The goal was for them to be able to experience a large astronomical number, not here, which is a least useful place for it to be registered, but actually here, somewhere near the solar plexus. And after constructing one, indeed, it's understandable in those terms. We made a model taking the world down in scale by a factor of millions so that the Earth would be this size. Perhaps the largest asteroid is a grain of sand. The sun a few hundred meters away. And the next nearest star not even on this planet in the scale model. That's the proximate universe. We're not even close to thinking about the universe, so we shrink another factor of 100 million. And now the solar system, the span of the orbit of Neptune, is a grain of sand. And the solar systems distributed through space are like grains of sand in a room like this, where maybe a dozen grains of sand, vast space, voids in between. The Buddhists love voids. They were very comfortable with this concept. And on this scale, the Milky Way galaxy is hundreds of millions of these grains of sand distributed over an area the size of India or the continental United States. But we're not there yet. That's just one galaxy. The universe has roughly 100 billion galaxies. Astronomers like to count these things. So we shrink another factor of 100 million. If you're keeping track, we've gone down 23 orders of magnitude from a real universe, to the point where now the Milky Way galaxy is a dinner plate, and there may be a few dinner plates in a room like this, and the visible universe is now the size of India or the United States, and is filled with 100 million galaxies. And now we've got there. And we wanted to visualize as well. No telescopes. We had no tools to get us out into space. So we used our minds. And they were very good at this, better than me. I learned a lot from them. We visualized going to all sorts of places. And you can do it too. I want you to do it too. So let's do it. Let's do a double transference. First of all, maybe the harder one, you're all monks. So just get comfortable with that for a few minutes. You're Buddhist monks. or nuns. There were nuns in the program. Second transference, you're in India. You're in Dharamsala, foothills of the Himalayas. And I want you to do this for extra degree of difficulty, not by meditating with your eyes closed, but with your eyes wide open. You're already in India, you're already monks, and now we need to go further. So I want you to rise out of your bodies. Look down on your homeland. Out of your bodies, you're rising up. Don't look down. Whatever you do, don't look down. It's your planet. And this part is sad. This is your homeland. Most of you left here when you were 5 or 7 or 8 and will never go home. Will never see your families again. They cannot leave, you cannot visit. But it's a small world. There are no boundaries from space. So we leap out to the realm of the stars, where our home is now really invisible in the black velvet of space. And the object we see is our own galaxy, 100,000 light years across, receding to become one of many galaxies, each of the same dimension, each with those hundreds of billions of stars, to the point where we see the galaxies that astronomers at places like this with telescopes like the ones we build have mapped out the universe, until eventually we get to the edge of time and space. Looking out in space is looking back at time, and we can look towards the Big Bang, an event at which, perhaps a picosecond after the Big Bang, the universe itself, all those 100 billion galaxies, were the size of a grain of sand. So from grain of sand to grain of sand, it's all part of a story. A story we've told going back almost to that early phase. And here we looked at a picture, and they counted in the picture, the deepest picture of the sky ever made, the Hubble Deep Field, 10 billion times fainter than the eye can see. This part of the sky is no larger than a grain of sand held at arm's length, and yet there are 3,000 galaxies there, each with billions of stars. It's irresistible to imagine that on some of those planets around those stars in those galaxies, they're not someone else looking back at us too. Perhaps. We don't know that. We talked about time. Time and space are coupled in the universe because of the speed of light, and telescopes are time machines looking back in time as they look out in space. In most cultures, time is cyclic, in the Buddhist and Hindu traditions as well. And even in modern cosmology, there's the idea of precursor states to the Big Bang, where it's just one event amongst many in the multiverse idea. This was very familiar and comfortable to the Buddhists. Also comfortable to them were the spans of time. In Buddhism, a kalpa is 4.3 billion years, very close to the age of the Earth. And one of the geshes told me about a grand kalpa, which is about 1 trillion years, which is pretty much the span of the oldest stars in the galaxy before all the lights go out in the universe. And at that point, I got a lesson in experiencing time in the solar plexus, because 1 trillion years doesn't mean that much to me. But apparently in a text by a disciple of the Buddha, he tried to convey to a senior monk what a great kalpa was by visualizing a mountain made of granite, 1 kilometer across at the base, where once a day a dove flies and grazes the mountain with its wings and brushes off a few grains of granite. A great kalpa is how long it would take to erode the mountain. And that I definitely felt somewhere around here. Threw away all the numbers. Now we considered time by making a timeline in a room like this with pictures from the Big Bang to the present day. And the monks are very serious about their studies. They take these things intensely but seriously. In what you're about to see, the monk presenting his timeline is a very senior monk, and they're deferential and respectful to senior monks, as they should be. You can understand Tibetan. I hope you might have brushed up, but it doesn't matter. You don't need to understand what's going on here. You just watch.
karma chadi yore. Te je karma de mon ro ko yore. Adi jo ko te jamo tro ro. Ko te jamo tene saza da no ji jik tro te pa ja jik tro te pa ja ji yo mo ro. Pa jo de jik tro yore, so jo de jik tro yore, yar jo de jik tro yore, mar jo de jik tro. 되게 자주 두냐 그래도 여러. 나는 되게 자주 두냐 잡아. 이게 진짜 뭐래? 아,
in the classroom, there's a challenge because I don't speak Tibetan and most of them don't speak English. So we interleave the lecture, and when things get intense, when the learning is intense and the teacher becomes superfluous, I'm sort of like the kid at the edge of the scrum where something fun is happening in the middle of the scrum. I can't understand what's going on. There's a lot of jostling going around. There's a lot of learning happening. That's very clear, but I actually can't understand. I can't understand it. I've set up the situation as the teacher, and I just get out of the way and sort of enjoy the mayhem. And sort of controlled chaos is actually the highest form of teaching and learning. It's one that's generally discouraged at large universities like this for understandable reasons, but it's the most fruitful form of learning. And we talked about life. One of the most strange features, and you may feel this some mornings when you wake up, is that the universe contains biology or life. It is indeed a strange feature of the universe. We talked about the unity of life. In biology, in the modern sense of biology, we are ignominious in the extreme. We can't have a very exalted sense of ourselves because in terms of the genetic material, we're just the tiniest twiglet on the tree of life. Humans, primates indeed, would just be smaller than the dot on the eye of animals in the modern tree of life, defined by DNA or RNA. And we're all related when we're all one thing. And so the unity and interdependence of life revealed by modern biology is a powerful idea of Buddhism as well. As is the idea that the differences we see amongst us are trivial in terms of the one genetic experiment we find on this planet. The typical genetic difference between any two Tibetans born in neighboring houses but not related is typically larger than between me and one of them, or you and one of the monks that I taught. Now, through the Kepler satellite, we know how many habitable worlds there are in the Milky Way and beyond. So we have to imagine that this experiment of habitation, of habitable worlds on this planet is not unique. And back to the grains of sand, roughly 1 billion habitable worlds in one galaxy. Imagine each grain of sand and inspecting it for the life forms that it might contain, similar or dissimilar to ours. And that, of course, is just one galaxy. In terms of habitable worlds in the universe, it's the entire arc of the beach. Every one a potential biological experiment. Every one a petri dish with 12 or 13 billion years to grow something interesting. And after all this, after 3 weeks, after learning gravity from scratch, the monks are ready for graduation. Thanks for joining me on the journey.
Thank you very much.